Hi there, Kathy Pecora with Atlanta Area Property Management. So today I'm going to talk briefly about self-managing. A lot of owners want to manage themselves because they want to make sure that the home is being cared for the way that they want to take care of it. That's not a problem, but I've got a couple of rules, I guess, if you will, or guidelines that I feel like if you're going to self-manage, you should follow. So the first one is never, never, ever rent to friends, family, friends of friends, or friends of family. For us, it has never worked out. In the end, they're looking for a deal. They think you're the rich landlord, and in the end, they end up taking advantage of you. So my rule is always, if you know them, do not rent to them. Okay. My second thing is always act like you are a property manager. If you own the property, there's no reason for you to share that you're the owner with any potential tenant or a tenant. Always say that you're the property manager. So for example, you have a tenant in there and they say, hey, my rent's gonna be a little bit late. Can you waive the late fees? Well, you know that they've been late 3 or 4 times and you are tired of waiving the late fee. So what you want to be able to do is say, well, look, let me get with the owner and I'll get back with you. That way it doesn't make you the bad guy. You're just the property manager doing what the owner wants. You go back, you get a chance to think about it, maybe reviews record, maybe even come up with a plan on how you're going to deal with this late payment. Okay, so that would be my second guideline is never let them know you're the owner. Always make them think you're a property manager. The next one is in advance, when you're getting ready to list your property, always know what your criteria, your tenancy acceptance criteria is going to be. What your credit score is, how much income they need to make, whether you're going to allow pets, no pets, and then make sure that you stick with that. But the one thing you got to do is make sure that you price it right, because when that person comes along, you don't want them wheeling and dealing. Oh, hey, can you lower this by $100 or anything like that. So make sure that you've got your house priced right and that you know what your criteria is. When somebody's looking at the house and they're asking you what's the criteria, you can just say it. What you don't want to get yourself stuck in is the middle of any kind of a fair housing lawsuit where you let this one was okay to have maybe a 649 credit score, but this one you had to have a 655. So you don't want to get into any of those kinds of lawsuits. Okay, so always make sure you know what your criteria is and stick with it. And then my next one is always use a screening application. For example, I think TransUnion has one called SmartMove. The way I think that one works is that you set up your account, and then when you have somebody that wants to apply, then you send them an invitation. That way they pay for the application, they pay for that processing, and then you get the results back. All right, and there's some documents that are signed that say, hey, you're allowed to look at them because you're just a lay person, so you got to be very careful when you're looking at other people's personal and credit information. So I would use something like that. I think there's a couple of ones out there, TurboTenant, SmartMove, and there's a bunch of others, but use a screening application. And then the last thing is when you are working with showing your property, don't wheel and deal with a tenant. Make sure you're priced right. If a tenant comes in and they're like, well, the house isn't very clean, or, I don't really like this color. If I move in, can I paint a wall? Just like, no, the house is what it is. So make sure that the house looks good enough to show and that you've got your home priced right. You don't want someone coming in saying, well, the price is too high, will you lower $100 a month? And you're in a hurry to try and get this thing rented, so you say, okay. So you get a tenant in there now, and they remembered that you wheeled and dealed back then, so you know what? Maybe you'll wheel and deal now. So make sure that you have your criteria set up front, you're firm, and you're priced right. So those are about my few basic guidelines if you're going to self-manage.